Welcome back. Today, I'm going to get out of the what and get into the how. My positivity metaphor is still working here because a tree, just like every living thing, needs to be nourished in order to thrive. So really, what we need to do is to figure out how to nourish that foundation. And we create a solid and strong foundation with all the traits I described by providing nourishment in the form of specific exercises and practices. We nourish our ability to thrive and flourish, to create fitness for success-ready fulfillment through specific practices that include self-care, stress management, mindfulness, compassion, and positivity. And so, of course, I'm going to elaborate on this. And let me start with self-care. There's so much to self-care. There's nutrition, exercise, caring for your body, all that kind of stuff. But there are three aspects of self-care that we can't survive without: sleeping, hydration, and breathing. Without nourishing ourselves by attending to this basic trinity of self-care, it's going to be very difficult to thrive. Everything else rests on the basic level of taking care of our physical bodies. Pretty much all of us know that we're supposed to take care of our bodies, and the bottom line is that a lot of us know how, but we don't all do it. And maybe we think we can flourish without self-care. But even if we can, it won't be sustainable, and it won't be in an energy-efficient way. Without basic self-care, you might as well be trying to grow your positivity on concrete. And yeah, I'd love to tell you to eat a perfect diet, exercise daily, don't indulge in vices, floss, check your smoke alarms, and all that stuff that I don't do. But today, I just want to get you thinking of the basic non-negotiables of self-care, sleeping, hydration, and breathing. When I say self-regulation, I'm talking about exercising our ability to take control of our physiology, of our nervous systems, so they can be a little less nervous. Because most of us have become habitually wound up, taking it down a couple of notches, rebalancing and regulating. This takes regular practice. We need to exercise our capacity to self-regulate, and by doing so, we learn to relax, obviously, but we also increase our capacities for willpower, equanimity, vitality, resilience, focus, and fear resistance. We give ourselves back the energy to create helpful habits, to make useful decisions, to solve tough problems, and to take action toward our smart goals. Mindfulness is such a trendy word and concept these days, but it's not a fad. It's a very ancient practice that has finally begun to be recognized by Western science. Mindfulness is the ability to be present in your life, to be in the moment without judgment, and to have freedom from the causes of suffering. In order to cultivate mindfulness, we really need to practice it, and to practice it regularly, because it's really easy to be mindless in our busy lives. And when we're mindless, we're at risk for losing course, and even more important, we're at risk for suffering. If I'm talking about nourishing your foundation, mindfulness practice is like a superfood. And we can use some simple breathing exercises to help us cultivate our mindfulness and practice it. So, although in fulfillment cultivation we're creating these astounding transformations, we're actually able to do it using some simple daily exercises and practices. So simple that it might not seem like they'd be important or meaningful, but they are. That's what trips people up a lot. The practices seem too simple to be valuable. But just like doing crunches and other exercises might not seem like the key to a strong core and a pain-free, injury-resistant physiology, the exercises that we do to nourish our foundation for fulfillment, the exercises themselves might not seem all that profound, and some of them can be, I'm being totally honest here, kind of boring because they involve seated contemplation. The research clearly supports their value for strengthening all of the traits and attitudes that we need to cultivate. Anyway, mindfulness practices are typically pretty simple and straightforward, and so rather than thinking that makes them boring, I think that's great news, because so much in life is complicated. I'm glad that the practices I can use to cultivate fulfillment are simple. Compassion helps us to feel better about others and about the world and also about ourselves. It's a key to confidence, a key to empathy, a key to emotional safety, and it's the antidote to shame. And it also mediates anger. It might sound a little touchy-feely or seem like it might make you soft, too soft for a hard world. And it's kind of a tough sell for people with a lot of anger. But compassion is very healthy emotionally, and it's helpful for thriving. I'm not talking about putting other people before you, doormat kind of stuff, where you don't honor your own needs or let other people get away with hurting you. Compassion keeps you connected to humanity. It can improve your relationships, and it's perhaps most importantly a way to nourish yourself. It's an antidote to being harsh and hypercritical and unforgiving toward yourself. Nourishing ourselves with compassion creates positive emotions even in the face of suffering, so it's helpful for resilience. Again, there are specific exercises we can perform to help foster compassion. Without an understanding that compassion is functional, compassion practice would just seem like something nice, or perhaps something woo-woo, depending on your point of view. But we do need it. It absolutely does help make our foundations stronger and more flexible. And a tree needs sunshine. And as I built this metaphor, I was really excited to use positivity as the sunshine for the positivity, because it's appropriate. Positivity involves specific practices that give a warmth to your life, that make life lighter, and that, along with other forms of nourishment, promote growth and flourishing. Personally, I feel really fortunate to have come upon positive psychology right around the inception of the field, because I'm not one of those people who came upon positivity naturally. I had to teach it to myself in large part. I mentioned this earlier, but I want to reiterate that I'm, by nature and nurture, predisposed to being a little bit of a negative Nancy. And having changed myself and changed my ability to manage my life and accomplish things because of positivity, I really am completely sold on its value. Not just for improving your mood, which is a good thing in and of itself, but for building all those traits and attitudes that form the foundation of fulfilled living. You could have all your other ducks in a row and a great plan for achieving your definition of success, but if you're not practicing positivity, your path to success will be a bit like skiing uphill. The positivity practices that nourish your foundation can be helpful even if you're the kind of person who chooses to be a defensive pessimist, someone who looks on the dark side just to be prepared. Everything about this model is about being in control of ourselves and about being our own bosses, and we can decide when to be positive and when to dabble in a little pessimism, again, if it serves us. As we cultivate equanimity and wisdom, we'll be better and better able to understand what serves us. We won't be pessimistic just because that's who we are. Our wisdom and equanimity becomes who we are and allows us to choose our attitudes and our daily practices. So each of these categories of nourishment consists of a variety of exercises, just like physical fitness includes exercises for building muscle, for improving cardiac endurance and increasing flexibility. And in each of these categories, there are many exercises. There are a variety of practices in each of these areas of nourishment. And by practicing specific activities for positivity, self-care, mindfulness, stress management, and compassion, we provide our foundation with what it needs so that we can cultivate the attitudes and traits that'll lead us to fulfillment. Pretty straightforward, right? Now, in addition to nourishing your positivity, you can also help yourself to flourish by pruning and trimming to give shape to your tree. We can do this by developing a set of helpful skills. These skills are our metaphorical gardener's tools. And these skills, just like a tree trim, don't always need to be used, but they're good to have in your toolbox. And the first skill I want to talk about is prioritizing, because there really is a skill to getting your priorities straight and in order. First, you have to be aware of your values, what's important to you. And then you need to assess the items on your to-do list with regard to how important they are and how urgent they are. This was a method that the late Stephen Covey popularized in the hugely successful book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He talked about how people had a tendency to use up their time and resources dealing with issues that were urgent, but perhaps not important. And he emphasized how important it is for us to align our priorities with our values so we don't end up spending all our time putting out fires while neglecting what's really important to us. There are specific processes for solving problems, and it's good to know the process so that you can use it when needed. But what I really want to highlight here is that problem solving as a skill requires an attitude. I guess an optimistic attitude. You see, in the fulfillment cultivation model, many of these elements really are interconnected. Anyway, effective problem solving requires an attitude that problems always have solutions. Knowing that every problem has a solution gives you the energy and opens the possibility for the mental flexibility you're going to need to see things differently. And that's what you need to solve a problem. Think about it. It wouldn't be a problem if solving it wasn't posing you a challenge. And there are also proven behavioral strategies that make use of your hardwired biological capacity to create habits. And when we learn how these strategies work, we have the power to build the habits and routines we need in order to create the outcomes we want. Habits are important because they're time and energy savers. Our resources can be easily depleted if we don't know how to put some of our behaviors on automatic pilot. Interestingly, just the act of building a habit helps us strengthen our willpower that we can use toward anything else we choose. And creating a habit of practicing for fulfillment cultivation helps strengthen our ability to create habits, which then strengthens our trait of willpower, which helps our confidence, our optimism, and self-efficacy. Again, it's all connected. I don't have to explain what this is. We all seem to struggle with not having enough time. We need to use our priorities and our helpful habits and routines to help us make the most of the limited time we have each day and over the long haul. Once you're aware of your priorities and your values, the best way to start managing your time is to track your time on a typical day. Log what you do. See how much time you spend on activities that aren't consistent with your goals, how much time you waste. Then you can install and break habits and create routines and reallocate your time once you see where it's going versus where you want it to go. Here's a little time management and productivity tip that I found really helpful. I believe it comes from David Allen's Getting Things Done, and it's called the 2-minute rule. Over the course of your day, as you make choices as to what to do on your to-do list, or as you deal with what just shows up, you can follow a simple guideline that if you can complete an action on that activity within 2 minutes, don't put it off. Get it done. File that paper rather than throwing it on a pile. Respond to that quick email rather than leaving it in your inbox. The fewer items hanging over us, the more focused we can be on what's important to us, and the more energy we have for willpower, problem solving, and taking action. Danglers, as I call them, incomplete items that are just hanging around, those are big energy drains. Now, stress is the enemy of thriving. We can't get rid of it, but we need to learn to control the impact of stress on our bodies and our lives. Stress management is a skill that can be learned, and learning how to relax is a big part of it. Lots of us have forgotten how to relax. Maybe not how to behave like we're relaxed, but to truly relax. Going on vacation and worrying about what's waiting for you back at home while you lie on the beach is not relaxing. I'm talking about relaxing on the inside, soothing your nervous system. Anyway, there are several basic breathing exercises that are proven to relax and soothe the body and the mind, and that's really important for growth and thriving. Fulfillment and stress don't go together. Knowing how to relax and soothe yourself is pretty critical if you want to experience the rewards of fulfillment rather than shriveling up. Now, I'm not saying that we need to eliminate stress. That's just not possible, and some stress is actually good for us. It's a big old motivator. I'm talking about learning how to cope with excessive and chronic stress. And the ability to work with the contents of your mind and to challenge your own thinking when it's not helping you to act in your own best interest, those are the skills of self-inquiry. Cognitive behavioral psychology offers proven and very, very powerful methods we can use to question the contents of our own minds, to dispute and to reframe unhelpful or illogical thinking, and to discover helpful ways of thinking. Because if you have a mind, it's probably driving you nuts most of the time. We are biologically predisposed to crave, but we're not necessarily biologically predisposed to crave what's good for us, or to stop craving when we've had enough. We're just designed to keep on craving. We are bottomless. We need to learn how to use the neurobehavioral strategies that have been proven to help people take control and resist temptation, so that we can learn to pursue what's in our best interests rather than just feeding the whole. So, that's how we nourish and shape our ability to flourish and thrive. But there's a bit more to this model, because as much as we need nourishment to thrive, we would also be best off not engaging in activities that make us wither, and I call these poisons. We benefit from learning how to avoid poisons, and I'll tell you about that tomorrow.